Thank you. You're all welcome to EduSpots Ignite Talk. I'll be your host today. I'm Gertrude Akunlibi. Before we move into the talk, I would call on Sarah to give us a brief background on what we do at EduSpot. So, Sarah.
Okay, thank you, Gertrude. Can everyone hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. So yes, my name is Sarah Abochi Masters. I'm the EcoSTEM specialist here at EduSpots, and it's a great honor and privilege to be here today to start things off with this Ignite talk. So as you can see from the screen there, today is International Day for Women and Girls in Science. So it's a really special day for all of us, a day when we really want to amplify the voices of women in science and really encourage our girls, if they're interested in science, to pursue their passions, pursue their dreams. And we have a fantastic speaker for you this evening. So, as I said, first of all, if we can just go to the next slide. Can someone just move to the next slide for me? Sorry, I'm on my phone. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about EduSpots for the people who may not know about EduSpots already, and then also about these Ignite talks. This is not the only Ignite talk we're doing, it's a whole series that we do. And then I'll hand back to our wonderful host, Gertrude, who will introduce our guest. Okay, so yeah, so about EduSpots. I know that some of the people in the audience will be staff, there'll be some of our own catalysts and other supporters, but in case you don't know anything about EduSpots, and maybe this is the first time you're joining us, let me just give you a brief overview. So what EduSpots does is to connect, train and equip over 300 what we call catalysts. So these are voluntary educators working in their communities. We call them catalysts. We like to use that name because they really are igniting change in their communities. They're really pushing development in their communities. And they work in about 50 community-led spaces across Ghana and Kenya. And we call those spaces spots. So that's where the name EduSpots comes from. And what those catalysts do is work with children of all ages, you know, from early years up to JHS, and they coordinate different types of clubs. So we go from early years, the EduKids Club, then we go on to EduLit, actually, which is now DigiLit, which is digital skills and literacy. And then they can move on to EcoSTEM, so that's hands-on practical science and environmental education. Or Ignite Equity, which is about gender equity and female empowerment. So they have this range of different clubs that the children can join in, and they do a whole range of very interactive, hands-on, fun, playful sessions to really inspire their critical thinking and broaden their horizons. And we worked out that we give these learning opportunities, we reach around or over 10,000 children a year. So that's a really great impact that we have. And then tonight is one of our series of Ignite talks. As I said, this is not the only one we've had. We run them around every month, and we find wonderful speakers who are experts in their field, always in some way related to what we do. It could be about community development, it could be about literacy, it could be about neurodivergent learners, or it could be about STEM or sustainable enterprises. And the idea is that these talks are going to help empower our catalysts, our volunteers, our staff and our other supporters and stakeholders, and anyone else who's interested in finding out about what we do. And these talks are free. They're free for anyone to attend, and they always take place on Zoom around once a month. So as I said, you have a wonderful Ignite talk in store for you this evening. So now I'm going to hand over to Gertrude, our host for tonight. Now, just to say a little bit about Gertrude, I used to work with Gertrude in the EcoSTEM team. She was part of the EcoSTEM team. And now she's actually moved on to, she's the Northern Regional Coordinator at EduSpots. So she's really rising high, a rising star in EduSpots. So over to you, Gertrude.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for the background and the introduction. Right. So to the main talk. Today we have a very wonderful guest, Professor Elsie Effah Kaufmann. She's the Dean of Engineering Science at the University of Ghana. And of course, she's also known to be the host of the famous National Science and Maths Quiz. Now, I will not do all the introduction myself. So at this point, Prof, if you're with us, could you kindly come off mute and introduce yourself, particularly highlighting how you ended up in science or STEM for the very first time. I know you've been in the space for over 37 years, if I'm not mistaken. So it would be good to start off from there to see whether the fate or the motivation behind how you ended up in STEM the very first time.
All right. Thank you so much, Gertrude, and thank you everyone for having me at this talk today. I want to wish everyone a happy International Day for Women and Girls in Science. It's been a wonderful day. I've already had a very big activity earlier on, and I'm continuing on the same path with this talk. So I'm really excited to be here. Yes, I was born in Ghana. I am a Ghanaian. Don't let the name deceive you. And I went to school here in Ghana. I started school in Winneba, and then I moved on to Koforidua. But as I was growing up, I think my parents noticed that I was curious. I needed to understand certain things. I remember some of my very earliest memories when we were in Koforidua. I was, I think, in class 3 or so, or class 4. When the teacher came and talked about butterflies, the life cycle, from the caterpillar stage to butterfly, and I wanted to see for myself. So I started doing experiments, and of course I killed a few caterpillars in the process. But at the end of the day, I was able to get some butterflies out of the whole thing, and I was keeping notes this whole time. That should have been a hint that I would go into the sciences, but well, it didn't click at that time. I went on to secondary school. I went to a Brick Girls Secondary School, and there I was also very interested in all the subjects. It was those days where we used to take all the subjects. We would take the arts subjects, we would take the sciences, we would take business, we would take everything, and then in Form 3, this is the old system, the O levels. In Form 3, we would write an exam, and the teachers would sort us into groups and decide who would be science students. And well, I did well at the exam, so I found myself with the science students, and that's how I became a science student properly.
Wow,
and
awesome. That's
Yes.
exciting. There are some of us who are afraid of caterpillars but love butterflies, and then there's you who love both of them. Really interesting. So, Prof, I know that you are a very influential figure, and clearly you've been very impactful and have achieved like a lot, especially in the STEM field. First woman to be appointed full-time in the Department of Physics, first woman to be appointed Dean of School of Engineering. So a lot of times we see the end result, and so little of the barriers one had to overcome. Could you share with us a moment you found the most challenging, yet it was significant, and you were able to able to overcome as a woman in science, probably offering some advice that women who are currently facing similar challenges today could draw from?
Yes, the challenges are many, and I think those who have heard me speaking have heard me say that challenges are a part of life, right? And so you can't really avoid them altogether. You just need to build up yourself to be resilient enough to face the next one based on, the learning that you have had from previous ones. That is how I've been navigating my life. Let me share. Okay, you asked me for one challenge, right? Is it one or you want many?
I think let's go with one. We have a lot of questions for you. I know my audience are itching to ask, so I'll say one. and then we can take the rest as a
Just one. Okay. Well, every stage of my life, I've had challenges that I have overcome and which have helped me to navigate the next one. But let me talk about maybe some of them, not so recent, but relatively recent. So I came to University of Ghana in 2001, right, to become a lecturer in the university. At the time, I didn't have a department really. I was appointed to the Department of Physics. You've talked about that. But I was here basically to help start engineering. Now, the challenge that I want to talk about is this, if you're an academic and you are working in a university, there are three things you're supposed to do. First one is to teach. I didn't have any problem with that. I was teaching. I taught many courses. I was even starting programs, doing all sorts of things. So I didn't have a challenge with the teaching. The second one has to do with, let me put them in different order. So the second one I would say is service. So doing service to your department, doing service for your school, doing service for the university, doing service for the country, if possible, doing service for the world. So doing activities that will benefit your community and others. I didn't have trouble with that either because, I was, like I said, I was developing programs, I was helping students, I was academic advisor, I was doing all kinds of activities. By 2006, I had started doing the National Science and Math Quiz, which is basically, it was a volunteer work at the time, just volunteering my time to do these things. So I was doing service. Service was not a problem. The third one, which is extremely important in a university environment, is research. In order to get promoted, to even be where I am today, I needed to do research and I needed to publish the work. But here I was doing all these activities, starting new programs with fresh students who were not at a stage to be able to do any research. And remember, when I first started these things, there was no biomedical engineering in Ghana anywhere. So nobody was trained biomedical engineers to come and teach along with me to reduce the load. There were only two of us in the department. So I was spending all my time doing this teaching and other things and not doing the research that would get me promoted, as an academic. That was a challenge. That was a serious challenge because in order to even hold the position as a dean, you need to have the professor title. And without doing the research, you will never become a professor, let alone have a position like this. You just work. So that was my challenge, how to organize myself to do research and publish. I felt very stuck, to be honest, because I trained in the US where I went to study this really, what is it called? Fancy subject, tissue engineering, building human body parts, which requires a lot of resources. You need research funds, you need research facilities, you need collaborators, students, graduate students working with you. That's the environment I was used to. And I come here and I'm teaching undergraduate students for years and years. No research, no funding, nothing. No, I didn't even have a lab, no lab. So I was properly stuck. But how did I navigate this? I was nominated for an opportunity, the International Women's Forum Leadership Foundation. So I put in an application. I spent a lot of time on that application, and I was selected from Ghana to be part of this amazing group of women from around the world. Yes. And it was through this that I started seeing things very differently. Before, what I thought was, okay, just work hard and you'll be recognized and your work will show for itself. And I go to this leadership foundation and we have really prominent women coming to talk to us and mentor us and give us coaching. And they told us, we women, we sometimes keep our heads down. We are just busy working details. Sometimes we have to stop, look up and learn and see what is happening around us and strategize on how to make progress, because it's not only up to the hard work and the diligence alone. And I saw myself in that. So based on all of these experiences, I decided to take a break. And the break helped me a great deal because I was finally able to sit down, strategize on how I was going to get research done and start publishing again in order to be able to make progress in my career. So that is one example of a challenge I have faced.
Wow.
This is about 10 years ago, and that is how I went through it. Yes.
After this talk, I'm publishing my first paper. Okay,
Okay.
so this year, the theme we are looking at for International Day of Women and Girls is on unpacking STEM careers. Her voice is science. So collectively, we are looking at the different pathways that women take in the STEM careers and how we can ensure their voices are heard and valued. So in your opinion, what would you say is maybe some key steps communities, individuals, or even institutions can take to ensure that the diverse voices and experiences of women in STEM are both heard and actually integrated into shaping the future of science and technology?
Thank you. What an interesting question. Yes. A lot of the time we want to wait and find women who are accomplished in order to listen to them, in order for their voices to count. But one thing that I have noticed, and I also tell my mentees and I tell anyone who will listen to me, is that you don't suddenly wake up one day and you are in a position of influence where your voice matters, where your opinions count. It doesn't happen that way. It doesn't work that way. Rather, you live life, you have experiences, you gain experience, you gain credibility along the way by your things, the small things that you do, which then become big things. And then you become that person who is credible, who is a voice to be listened to. So it is a process. And I'm happy you asked about how communities can help. A lot of the time too, we are expecting schools. So somebody goes to school, that is where they are supposed to learn everything. It doesn't happen that way. And that's one of the reasons why I like EduSpots, by the way, right? Changing that model. And taking it back, the learning back into the community. The school system, I think, was developed to solve a particular problem. And maybe the problems no longer exist the way they did at the time the school system was set up. Learning does not always take place in the confines of classrooms. Learning takes place everywhere you find people, right? And so, as we are talking about communities, if you want the young lady to at some point become a person whose opinion is important, whose opinion counts and helps in decision making, you must give that young lady opportunities to learn these skills throughout their growing period. Okay, so I believe very strongly that even in the home where the child is first born, if that child is nurtured to believe that what they are learning is important, that they are going to become important persons in that society, that their opinions are going to have to count, and so they must apply themselves to something important, that they must learn the processes of making important and wise decisions along the way. I think it will help all of us. So it starts right from home. It starts from the community. It starts from valuing our young people, especially the girls, to know that we have expectations of them, that they must grow up and learn and become these people who are wise and can give opinions and can help in decision making. We need to give them opportunities to practice the whole way up until the point. We don't have to wait and suddenly, you never give the person an opportunity from when they are young, their opinion doesn't matter. And then suddenly, when does that suddenly take place? When do they suddenly gain the skills to be able to do these things that we expect, right? So I believe the community is extremely important in doing these things, and it must start right from the beginning of the lives of our young people, especially the women who have been underrepresented in high decision making. They must get opportunities. Yes.
Yeah. So drawing from, you mentioned that maybe the school system might exist and they were created for a solution, a particular problem, but maybe those problems don't exist. So if you had a direct access to a policy maker, what policy reform would you most firmly advocate for to speed up women and girls' development in STEM? It could be the careers, jobs, or even education, and why you believe it's so important? Maybe if you could.
Yeah, let me talk about education. Let me talk about education. today I granted an interview, and I hope I didn't upset the person interviewing me, because I was getting upset by his questions.
Okay.
He told me, he says, why should we focus on this International Day of Women and Girls in Science? Because we all know that the girls don't have time. They don't have time to be studying the sciences. They are very busy. You know, they don't have time. So why should we spend all the... And I was getting upset. I was getting upset. So I asked him point blank. I asked him, what are the girls doing that makes them not have time? What are they doing?
Exactly.
And he said, well, you know, they are in the home, they are doing. And I said, you see, these are the myths that we have to bust. These are the things that we have to get rid of. If you have a boy and you have a girl in the house, why will the boy have time and the girl not have time? Is it not because you are overloading the girl with your expectation that they would be the one to do the caring, the cleaning, all sorts of things? What is it that is keeping the girl busy that the boy is not doing? So I would say, right, that we need to give both boys and girls opportunity. There is nothing that says that girls must do cleaning for 10 hours in a day, while the boys can do for 1 hour. We have decided that it's this way. Can we change that? Okay, so you asked about policy. What policy? Let me talk about education and the policy. Right now, there's a lot of efforts to give access to young ladies, affirmative action and some other opportunities that are out there. I would think that we should reinforce that to give access. And then we need to come up with interventions, right? We must come up with interventions to keep the young ladies in school and moving ahead beyond the access. It's one thing to bring somebody in, it's another thing to keep that person in and happy. I'm speaking this way because I'm in engineering. And first of all, even before you can come do engineering, you must do the sciences. If at the basic school, the students, the young ladies studying science are in a very small minority, or there are not enough of them, why would we expect them to suddenly increase in numbers when we get to the university level where engineering is, right? So then we come to engineering, and then students, the number or percentage of female students is greater than the percentage that we have in the workforce, right? So that means we have a leaky pipeline. As we go up, numbers are dropping. Many young ladies graduate from engineering school. They may start work as engineers, but a large percentage of them just leave. So it's one thing to bring them in, to give them the access. It's another thing to keep them happy so that they stay in these professions. So my policy thing I would ask for is not only focus. Of course, we can do more with the access. I can think of places, certain disciplines where scholarships to women who want to pursue those areas may help. But that is only one thing you can do. That is one thing to bring them in. What other strategies do we have for keeping them there? Do we have workplace policies that are friendly to women, especially women at the beginning of their career, so that they stay in there? That is what I would like any policymaker to start thinking about.
Okay, awesome. So you kind of answered my next question, but I think I'll still go ahead and highlight it. So I speak for a lot of Ghanaian women myself. Growing up, you were our role model from TV. We saw you hosting the National Minds and Science Quiz. A lot of us, were amazed. And it got me thinking, I have had the privilege to actually know you the last 7 years, occasionally worked or briefly worked with you. And often a lack of visible role model and societal expectation, like you mentioned from the gentleman's interview, discourage many young women from pursuing STEM careers. And when I look around me, a lot of the times, the interventions are mentorship programs. So I'm thinking, okay,
Oh,
beyond
you're
mentorship
breaking up.
programs. Hello?
Please, hi, you'd have to repeat the question. You were breaking up, so I didn't hear the question at all.
Okay. So I was sharing from my personal experience, and I was highlighting that I speak for a lot of young Ghanaian girls that growing up, you were a role model from TV. We didn't know you, but we saw you host the National Maths and Science Week, which was brilliant. And I have the privilege to have known you over the last 7 years. And I know I was mentioning, Elmina, how you've impacted my life. And so I couldn't stop thinking about often growing up as a girl in STEM or even a girl in general, a lack of visible role models and the societal expectations, like you mentioned from the gentleman, discourages most of us from pursuing STEM careers. So beyond mentorship program, which is often what I see around me, what other systematic reforms? I know you mentioned something about the workplace policy. Do you believe are required to really ensure that there's a fair playing ground, a fair playing field for women and science in general?
Yes. Let me get back to the family environment. Let's start from there. A lot of the time, and yes, you see, it comes back to that interview question. A lot of the time, you have young men, young women in the household. Yes, the expectations, right? So if a young lady needs to spend time, and you know, in the sciences, a lot of them, if you take physics, for example, if you take mathematics, you need time to practice. You can't just read it once and then know what to do. You need time to practice. You must have the time to sit and reflect. You must have the time to do problems. You must have the time to be able to grasp the concept, right? And if this opportunity is not given to the young ladies because they're expected to keep house, they're expected to do certain things, some of them are even married off young, right? How in the world would they be able to keep up, to be able to find love for the subject, right? To be able to excel in it. So yes, we need to change that. Then there's the issue of pedagogy. You know very well how our science and math has been taught over the years. It leaves much to be desired. These are taught as if they are subjects from space, from somewhere else that are not supposed to be understood. In fact, they are teachers who have done a lot of harm. You know, they come to class and they tell their students, as for this one, you are not expected to understand, just do it this way to pass your exam. And sure enough, if they do it that way, they do pass the exam. and so it's no longer about the wonder of the science subjects and the ability of these subjects to transform the world. We don't appreciate them that way because of the way they are taught. So something that we have to do is to also change the way we are teaching the subjects to make the subjects much more relevant and appealing, right? Very, very important. There are some teachers, they mean the best, but you cannot do what you can't give what you don't have. If you were taught in a certain way, the tendency is for you to go back to those default modes and continue what you know and what you are comfortable with. We need to break that cycle, right, with many, by offering them the opportunity to learn newer techniques, more helpful techniques to teach these subjects. We need to have support to provide the tools and resources. The sciences require experimentation, right? And sometimes instruments and tools. That means somebody must be funding this endeavor. It is a lot more difficult to do something like that than to go to some other subjects where it's sufficient to have a teacher delivering material, right? In our particular case, we need to have practice. And so we need the resources. So somebody must provide these resources. then we need to have our young people believe that they themselves can do what we say we are doing, want to do, right? So that mindset shifts. So if you're a young person and you decide to go into the sciences, it should not be a surprise to you that your people are expecting you to solve problems. It should be part of the expectation, right? That you are learning for a purpose. So yes, that shift is also very, very important. Well, have I given enough things that we could do?
Yes, you have done justice to the question. So let's bring the conversation home to EduSpots.
All right.
EduSpots, we run an ecosystem program, which is one of our core learner strands. And that program is championing innovation and creative sustainable solutions or local solutions. So I know that there are a lot of organizations out there as well. So how can organizations like EduSpots, particularly those out there who are also focused on STEM, effectively involve the families? I know we've spoken a lot about family, but I think we can never finish talking about families and communities in general in breaking traditional gender norms and encouraging girls to participate in the STEM profession from a young age.
Okay. I keep saying that our parents, right now we are targeting parents. Our parents mean well for us. However, let me repeat something I have already said. You cannot give what you don't have. Okay. So if all your experience has been go to school, study this subject, and become this professional that does this so that you can take care of us. If this is a worldview, when that child has talent in other things that's unfamiliar, the likelihood is that we will not understand as parents. We will force our children to do certain things which they may not have passion for. Okay, so if EduSpots or other organizations want to make an impact with parents, hello.
Hi, sorry about that.
Okay, so if you want to make an impact, what I think will work is to provide the examples, the counter examples to what they see every day, right? That informs the decisions that they have been taking all along. So that's why I like your story. You in particular, Gertrude, you took the path that was not the ordinary, right, in your community. And what has happened? Has the sky fallen down? In fact, you haven't reached the community, right? Yes. So I am thinking that if we have many examples like you yourself, that it is possible to break out of the mold, go out and explore, learn, and come back and make a difference, right? Then more parents will be more comfortable supporting initiatives that they are not familiar with. But we have to start from somewhere. We need these examples and we need to amplify, we need to make these examples much more visible so that they are counter examples to the normal.
Right. Amazing. Okay, so I know that recently in Arena and of course on social media, you were announced EduSpots Patron. Yay! And before I open the conversation to the audience, I would like you to share a few words on that line. So, how do you envision your role as a patron of EduSpots in shaping the impacts that EduSpots is currently having? And maybe what aspirations you have for the future in that role as well.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I am so excited to be patron of EduSpots. Can you tell the excitement? Yes, I am so excited because you are doing some amazing work. And the fact that what you are doing is right in the community that is just amazing that you are able to incorporate some of these good practices into the community. You are actually raising up the next generation of thinkers and doers who have the community at heart because they have benefited from some of these opportunities that EduSpots has provided, right? So my job as patron really is, I'm an ambassador, right? I'm supposed to find out what you guys are doing. You people will be doing all the hard work. For me, I get to enjoy your stories and I get to tell your stories. By virtue of the things that I do, I have access to many different places where I can tell EduSpots stories, where I can highlight, the successes that you are chalking in the community, the relevant work that you are doing. So I'm going to be coming to all of you to tell me what you're doing, to track your sparks, to track the catalysts, to tell me what they are doing, what benefits they have had, what challenges they have had, how they have solved those challenges. Basically, give me your stories, and I will tell your stories to the world. That is how I see my role. Every once in a while, I get the opportunity to whisper into the ears of influential people. If there are wishes that EduSpots has, I can add them to my own wishes and express those wishes to the people that have the capacity to do something about these wishes. These are the things that I intend to do with EduSpots.
It looks very exciting. And catalysts, I know we have a lot of catalysts in the house. So you heard it from your patron. You just need to do the work. Now we don't have to worry about social media. Are you telling your stories on social media? Just do the
No, you
work
still have
and
to tell.
and
You
share
have
it
to
on social
tell.
media. She'll carry it forward for you.
Yes.
All right. So at this point, I'll open the talk to the audience. If you have any questions, please put up your hand or you can put it in the chat. We will take turns asking them and Prof can answer them. Is there any question in the chat box?
There are questions, yes. If you want to ask a question, you can also raise your hand.
Okay, I think somebody just dropped a question. Castro says, looking at the nature of how we teach science in the Ghanaian environment, how do we make the sparks? So in EduSpots, our learners or club students, we call them sparks. How do we make the sparks believe science is more practical than theory? The role of EduSpots.
All right. So teach by doing. Yes, by doing. That is how you're going to convince them that the science that they are learning is important. In fact, make them forget that they are even learning science. They are just learning. Right? If a lot of the time, the fear of certain subjects is because when people went to school, they were told, okay, it's time for subject A. I'm not going to mention subjects. So they'll tell you it's time for subject A, and that class is so boring, is so mindless, is so and in the past, when I was going to school, we even received lashes, canes for not doing certain things in certain classes. That was enough to turn you off, right? And so the moment you hear that subject is coming up, oh my goodness, your psychology is
You're
already
shaking.
on you are shaking, you are quaking, Meanwhile, these same subjects, when you are using them in your everyday life, you don't have that panic. In fact, you have no trouble using those subjects. You see, I'm trying very hard not to mention the subjects. You have no trouble applying them in your everyday life. However, the moment it's a class or the moment somebody mentions, I'm going to ask you a question in this subject, you start, sweating. So please learn by doing, apply it to life. That's why I like your challenges, the challenges that you have. You're solving a challenge, you are using all these theories, but you are not even realizing that you're using the theories. All you know is that you are solving your challenge, right? So make it that kind of fun for the sparks.
All right, thank you so much. Rafiat You can ask your question.
Okay, good evening to all. Before I start, I would like to say I'm super excited because, as Gertrude mentioned, more times we see you on telly, and it's kind of difficult having one-on-one with you, especially for we those that don't know. And today has been one of the memorable days for me. And I would like to ask you this question. As a woman in STEM, you did mention is demanding, and it is not disputed that science or STEM courses are demanding. How are you able to cope with family and career? How don't one try don't the career affect your family? How are you able to keep the balance with it too?
Excellent question. Excellent question. You know, we all have 24 hours a day. I have been praying for 26 hours a day. God, in His wisdom, knows not to give me the 2 extra hours. So I've been managing with the 24 hours a day, just like everyone else. What has helped me is being strategic, knowing what I want out of life, and prioritizing. It has been really, really important. So, first of all, the skill is time management. Knowing that we all have a certain number of hours in a day, I need to make sure that I am using my time wisely. And these are the things that you learn as you are growing up, right? So sometimes the past years, I was academic advisor to first-year students in engineering here at University of Ghana. One of the things I told my advisees is, if you learn nothing at all first year, learn how to organize your life, your time. Because when you learn how to organize your time, the little time that you have left to be as effective as possible, it will help you even in the future when you get more and more busy. And I promise them that, yes, they are going to get more and more busy. You think you're busy, whatever time you have, it gets busier, right? If that is if you're trying to accomplish certain things in life. So first, be purposeful. All kinds of opportunities will come your way. All kinds of opportunities will come your way, right? But it's not every opportunity you have to take. If something is not in line with your ambitions, your objectives for your life, the goal you have set before you, it is a distraction, right? So managing your time carefully, picking what things you are going to say yes to and which things you are going to say no to, very, very, very important. Okay, that said, it's not been easy for me at all. So I also mentioned strategy, right? Strategizing. When my children, I started having children, I decided to strategize the same way I strategize about my career and everything else. I strategize about the children as well. I decided that my role in my children's lives is to guide them. In the beginning, they are helpless. They are babies. They can't do anything. I have to be there for them, right? I have to be the one. I brought them into the world. I have to be responsible. So I committed myself to doing that. But then as they were growing up, I told them, and I still tell them, that my job in your life is to be a guide, to be your coach, to support you. But then my objective is to make myself progressively redundant in your life. That means I'm going to be giving you more and more freedoms. The more you show me that you can be trusted, the more freedoms you get. And in fact, that helped me so much, because it got to a point where my children, basically, now where I am now, to be honest, I don't think my children need me. So, okay, let me continue what I told them, that I make myself progressively redundant in your life and hope that when I am completely redundant, you still choose to associate with me. So that's how I've been raising my children. And it has helped me a lot, because they knew, and I tried to make sure that they understood at every step that I am there for them. Whenever they need me, they know where to find me, how to find me. I will drop everything for them because they are my treasure, they are my priority. However, if there are things you can do for yourself, please go ahead and do them. I trust you. And so I was not the type of parent that was hovering all the time and could not do anything else. Because I gave them the freedoms, I think they also appreciated the trust I have had in them, right? And I'm reasonably happy with the way they have turned out or are turning out. So I've been blessed in that direction as well. had I been the type of parent that has to be present every single second, doing everything for my children, there's no way I would be able to do some of the things that I do now. In fact, I've got to the point where they are independent-minded. I actually get advice from them these days, right? Well, I don't want to create the impression that everything has been rosy. Sometimes I had issues with guilt because I was a single parent. I'm still a single parent. And there are some events that I simply could not. I still haven't figured out how to be in 2 or 3 places at the same time. I don't have a hologram to send to other meetings, right? So the guilt sometimes sets in. Did I do enough for them? Are there events I have missed that I should have been at? You know, I do that sometimes, but then again, I also talk to myself and I say, well, if I had been that sort of parent who maybe they would not have seen some parts of me which they have used to also grow in their lives that they are having now, the lives of impact that they are showing. So that independence was very, very important. So it's not easy. It's not easy at all, but you can strategize and learn some skills to cook. I have also had a lot of help from my mother, family. When I was when I was re-strategizing about my career, remember I told you I was stuck and I had to do something. I had to take a break. Even then, my children were young. I couldn't leave completely. Some people go on sabbatical leave. They are gone 2 years. Don't look back. I couldn't do that. So what I was doing was I was going a month or 2 at a time. I would travel out. My mother would leave her house, come stay in my house, take care of my children for 2 months while I'm away doing research so that I could make progress. That kind of support is rare. But if you have that kind of support, please value it. Value it. That helps. That helped me a lot. So having a support system is also very, very important.
Very insightful, inspiring, and useful. Right timing. Okay, so we have a lot of questions, and today is International Day of Women and Girls. So I'm going to use that power to take one question from a gentleman and move to my ladies. In the chat, there's a question from Uncle Joe. He says, as an ambassador for EduSpots, how can you help our graduate SPACs, so SPACs that have graduated from the program, gain admission into universities across the globe?
All right. Admissions to universities. Well, actually, those of you who follow my social media with especially the X, I started that account because people were asking me about scholarship opportunities and so on, and I would not remember who had asked me. So I figured I would get on social media and post scholarship opportunities there. So that's what the original intention for me being on X, because I'm not even on Facebook. I'm not on Instagram. I'm not. So I'm very limited in the places I am. But specifically for this, I have been posting scholarship opportunities. Okay, so that is what I can continue to do. I can continue to share these scholarship opportunities when they come up. I can give advice because I'm also in academia, right? I'm sitting in a university, and so I can give advice. My school at Engineering Sciences, the School of Engineering Sciences at the University of Ghana, we have an outreach team, a very wonderful and powerful outreach team. They visit schools. We receive visitors. If any SPAC wants to visit us, I will be happy to host, right? And when you come, you get to meet with the professors. They can talk, you can ask questions about the areas in which you would like to go to university. A lot of the time we make mistakes because we simply don't know, the details of how to do the applications and how to get support and sponsorship to go to these places. So yes, or even the subject combinations to take when you go to high school. My people are here, and I'm also here to give that kind of advice. Yeah.
Thank you. Zuleya, if you could kindly unmute and ask your question. If not, I'll move to a question from Dakwa. So Dakwa is a founder of Talk to Me Foundation. She's proud of your work and believe in excellence. You'll be excellent in your new role at EduSpots. She has a
Thanks.
question about, okay, did you ever get discouraged along the way, I suppose? If yes, how did you deal with it? So did you ever get discouraged along the way of your STEM journey? And
Oh,
how did
yes. Several different stories. You know, remember you asked me for one challenge. I shared one challenge with you. There are many challenges, and sometimes the challenges come with discouragement. So let me share one. When I was in university, I was a graduate student. I was working towards the PhD. And I had a daughter at that time, my daughter Maya. I was trying really hard to graduate, meaning I had to write my thesis, finish up my experiment and write my thesis. And here I was with this baby. I would take the baby to the lab with me, right? And I was having a really tough time. And that was the time that my supervisor called me one day and says, oh, this was like middle of the week, beginning of the following week, you have lost your funding.
Wow.
Yes. Yes. To be honest, that was one of the biggest challenges because here I was close to finishing. I had a family to take care of. And if I have lost funding, that means how do I survive?
You have to start looking for money when you don't have
time. Exactly. I was discouraged. What do I do now? Do I quit at this stage, so close to the end? How can I come back to Ghana? Because remember, my dream was to come back to Ghana with this new discipline that I was, learning that was not in Ghana. How do I give up at that stage? At the same time, how do I take care of this baby if there's no funding? How will I pay my rent? Yes, I was discouraged. I was very discouraged. I had to talk to myself. I had to take a break. Some hours, just sit there and reflect. What am I going to do next?
Wow.
They made the decisions to move on in spite of these difficulties. Yes.
All right. Thank you. So we have another question from Abdul Malik. It reads, what strategies can be implemented to encourage and support girls from underserved areas like Zangbala, that's in the north, to pursue careers in STEM or science?
All right. What steps can be taken? I actually have a project in the north. I don't know if I have shared this. The Executive Women's Network in Ghana is a network of very powerful women doing amazing things. Amazing things. And they have this project. It's called the Elevate. And the Elevate is go to the northern region of Ghana. We went to launch there. We were in Tamale 2 years ago. We went to launch it. I'm patron of that one as well. So this is one way in which we can encourage the young ladies in underserved areas. Show presence, show interest, support if you can, right? Identify the ones that you can help based on what access you can give them in terms of sometimes it's scholarships, sometimes it's mentorship, sometimes it's just sharing your stories or having someone knowing that someone is interested in what you're doing, right? Taking your time to go and teach as service. There are so many things that we can do. But first of all, find out what the needs of the people you want to help are. Don't assume that you know and go and foist your intervention on them without understanding the circumstances of the people that you are interested in helping. So make the effort. Go make sure you understand the intricacies of what you're doing in that community before you bring in all kinds of solutions that may not be relevant to the life of the people that you are trying to impact.
Thank you. Any last question from the audience?
Please, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Zelaya. Go ahead.
Okay, please, my question is, how can I change a strand? If the strand that you are is not favoring you, how can you change it?
So I think her question is about, I'll take it from strand. So the strands are targeted into specific areas. So I suppose career path, maybe you're in engineering or computer engineering, you want to move to biomedical engineering. How do you change your career path in STEM? Zulay, is that right?
Yes, please.
All right. So first thing to notice that the foundations are all the same. Okay. So the foundations are all the same. Anything you learn has some use later on, right? Depending on what application you are doing or what it is you are applying it to. So nothing goes waste. If you have learned something from following what you're calling a strand, chances are the experiences you have gained from that strand will transition or will translate into what you are going into. That's my experience. That has been my experience. Nothing learned is ever wasted. It adds up to your stockpile of experiences, which will help you to deal with problems later on, right? Regardless of whatever else you are doing. A lot of the time, we get into all kinds of problems because we think very narrowly, right? So,
Yes.
some years ago, I stopped asking people, so what do you want to be? And then they tell me, I want to be a doctor, I want to be this, I want to be that. I ask much broader questions now. And the broader question I ask is, what contribution do you want to make to the world? What problem do you want to solve in the world? For which reason you'll be recognized and will be your impact and contribution, right? So if you ask the questions this broadly, then the fact that you're in one strand doesn't mean that you cannot make impact, right? If you really realize that you want to change, it should be possible to change. Another thing also is that, yes, especially in the Ghanaian education system, we kind of lock ourselves depending on what subjects that we choose, right? So if you choose certain subjects in senior high school, it basically closes off the door to other opportunities when you're going to university. But if really you have realized that you have made that kind of an error in judgment in terms of what you think you want to do, it should be possible to retrace your steps, go back, and transition into the new opportunities. It may take time, and it may take, because whenever you go back like that, it becomes more expensive because you must spend again to get back to where you were in order to make that change. But it should be possible to do. I don't believe in locking people in certain places where they are absolutely unhappy. At the same time, nothing you have learned on another strand is worthless. So that's my philosophy on this one. Okay.
Okay. Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
we are at time and there's still questions. Unfortunately, we can't take all of them. So I'm going to end it on this one question that I believe will be good to hear Prof's final words. It says, despite the criticism posed at you, what keeps you grounded on your goals and you consistently keep moving despite even ugly utterances that you might face on the way? And I think this will be a very final question for the audience.
Okay. So it's a state of mind, right? It's a state of mind. If I personally, I believe that once you stand for something, you will by all means have people that are unhappy with you. It is when you want to please everybody that maybe, hopefully, even then, somebody will still be upset at you. So I went past that long ago. So criticisms are something like, for me, it's like water on the duck's back. You can criticize all you want. If I have a clear conscience, if I have a clear conscience, it does nothing to me, right? So I have come to expect that based on, because of the things that I do, I'm in leadership. As a leader, sometimes you have to take difficult decisions. If you are convinced that what you are doing is right, you can be criticized for taking the right decisions. It's up to you to be okay with that. I say to my people here sometimes that, this thing is not a popularity contest. I cannot please everybody. I can cut my head off, put on a silver platter, serve it to you. Somebody will still complain about the edge. I didn't cut smoothly enough, right? So the thing is for me to make sure that I am grounded, that I am doing the right things, that I have a clear conscience at the end of the day, that I am convinced that I have done right by everyone. Then I am okay. I can be criticized and I am still fine. Yes.
Thank you so, so much. It's been an amazing conversation. A lot for, I believe, everyone, whether young, old, even STEM, non-STEM, to take away. At this point, I just have one announcement to make, and then I'll hand over to Rafiat, who will close us for the evening. Yes, EduSpots, what's next? We hope you join us next month for another Ignite talk. The details will be shared. We are 10 years old, hooray. And as part of the 10-year celebration, there will be a conference in the UK, 8th March. And our guest speaker for that conference is Cormac Russell. So I believe that there might be provision from online joiners. We are still working on it, but do make a date with us then. At this point, Rafiat, could you kindly give us a vote of thanks so we draw the curtains for the evening?
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity, Ms. Gertrude. Without much ado, it is important we first of all acknowledge God for giving us life to commemorate this day. Our deepest sense of appreciation, I would say, also goes to our very own CEO, Madam Catherine Davison, for her selfless efforts in transforming the lives of the younger generation. As she always say, education through or making it fun for everybody. We are indeed grateful. We would also love to extend our heartfelt gratitude and admiration to EduSpots Patron and guest speaker for tonight's engagement, Professor Elsie Effah Kaufmann. Your insights are indeed inspiring, especially for me, and it is worth joining the call this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, this event couldn't have even been possible without the dedicated and thoughtful leaders that saw to organizing this program. They are very proactive and dedicated, which made this program a memorable one. And also not forgetting you who have joined for this important occasion. I know some of us probably have other important engagements, but we have sacrificed to be here to commemorate this day, to celebrate women and girls in STEM. And on this note, I would say it is really an honor being a part of this program and giving the vote of thanks. Thank you very much. Over to you, Ms. Gertrude.
Thank you so much, Rafiat. So Rafiat is a catalyst from PC, which is in WOW, one of our spots. We also have on call one of our chair of trustees, Professor Gloria Ajiman. Thank you for joining and staying with us. It's always happy to have you on the call. Farida, if there's no other announcements at this point, have a good evening, everybody, and see you next month.
Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
No.